So much has happened this week. I haven't really been filming just because we've got tradies in working, but I think you've already noticed. This is our new shelving. It's an internal structure that's bolted to the wall. It's super solid, and it's all recycled timber. So if you've been following this whole process, you'll know that I've mentioned a company called Revival. Who's run by Robbie, great guy, and their business is basically all about being sustainable and reusing a lot of construction material, basically timber, from old warehouse, from demolition sites. And so this is from I think it's from a ceiling roof, like a joist from the warehouse in South Melbourne. And I love it. It's one of the prototype that they had in the warehouse. We saw it and we just thought it would be perfect for this space because it nicely divides the retail space and the making space, but without completely blocking it. There's still enough air between it that you can get a sense of what's going on. People inside can see what's going on outside, and it's just really nice. And there's a few other things as well. So we're going to do a little walkthrough today and have a look. So all these shelvings are adjustable. Basically, we've got them at 200 mil, and all we're going to do is stick them out, and we can put them wherever we want. And that's great because flexibility is such an important thing here. And this it actually goes really well with all the wall shelves at the back because it's just the same idea. And when we want to do bigger things, we can readjust this and display some really big pots. And when we want to do smaller things, I can have little trays like this. We can also stagger the shelves. So I can have one out at the front, one in like a middle area, and the top one can be further back. And then create like this kind of step. So you might have like some products up here, maybe something a bit bigger, something a bit smaller, and then maybe like tableware down here, like plates and stuff would be nice on the lower surface. And then the taller vases and planters and stuff like that can be up here, which will be really nice. And like all this color came from the age. So these timbers are all very old. And there's just this lovely contrast with all the white space we've got and the white ceiling. So yeah, really happy with that. They feel great, and yeah, we've already got so many comments with this, and we haven't had anyone in yet, but everyone loves it, and I love it. And so speaking of woodworking, so this is the workbench that's going to be in. Let me just give a bit of space. So this is the workbench that's going to be in the shared studio space. I've made this over the last few days, and all it's missing is its tabletop. So we've got plywood delivering in for an hour or so. So we've got the tabletop coming. We've got a ton of plywood for all the wall shelves, which I'll have to soften up the edge and make it nice to use. We're going to have all the plywood for the cabinetry at the front, for the display shelf, for the bookshelves. So yeah, I mean, I'm pretty happy with it. We've got nice, clean joinery, everything's flush. It's on wheels, so those wheels that you kind of step on them. So when it's up, the table is down on the ground, and when it's flipped down, it lifts up the wheel, it lifts up the table, and then you can easily move it around. Yeah, so I'm so excited. Once I get a tabletop, it will make life a lot easier because I still have quite a bit to build in the studio, and working on the floor is really hard. So this table is also designed where it's the exact same height as the table saw. So if I'm doing any cuts, I can use that table as an outfeed, which again makes life just a lot easier for building and construction here. What else? And so we've got our new switchboard installed. This is for our 3-phase power. It runs across on the ceiling and goes out that way, so the kiln can just go outside. So that's another major job that I'm really glad got done. The kiln was meant to come today, but there's a slight issue with the controller, and the makers are trying to troubleshoot it to make sure everything's working perfectly before they send it over. So until I get the update. I actually don't know when that's going to happen. But what I do know is my road kiln from Germany is on the container on the boat now. So it should be here in a few weeks. So worst case scenario, we'll always have that one kiln. And I can also rent another kiln in the meantime. And kind of, because we've got provision for 2 kilns. But because of, so we do, okay, it's a bit complicated, but we do have enough power to run both kilns at the same time. But because the wiring was done a long time ago, the neutral wire is actually a lot thinner, or I think it's half size than the mains, which means even though the mains is supplying 60 amps, the neutral can only handle about 40 amps because it was Imperial. Which means it's unlikely that we'll be able to run both kilns at the same time at full power. Which is not a major issue because, as you know, kiln takes a while to cool. So staggering it on, alternating days would actually be quite easy to do. Or I can have one kiln that's dedicated for firing at after hour because we have an off-peak. We have an off-peak rate and a peak rate for our electricity, and the off-peak is quite a bit cheaper. I think it's about 20-30% cheaper than the peak rate. So if I can schedule at least one kiln at that time, so it will be overnight, then it's going to save me a fair amount of money, in the long run. So it's an annoying thing, and you run the risk of tripping shit, but it's something I can at least work around. Like it's not the end of the world. Yeah. So another thing we're going to look at. So the facade has also been completely changed, and we're just going to go quickly have a look at that. So it is a little bit noisy here, so I won't be talking here for long, but I just want to show you. So this is all done by the timber that was salvaged from the rooftop. And as you can see, we've got a weave pattern here. So the way they did it is they have a backing of, I think it was just pine, and then with the salvaged timber, you'll cut a veneer and then clad it on. But what happens is you end up looking like it's solid timber throughout, which is great. So we've got the same weave pattern going around and then up along the top as well. So it's a complete full coverage of the facade. I'm gonna do some pop photos and things like that just to show what it looks like. So here's woodworking project number 2. So I've made a little poster holder. As you can see, there's a timber here. It's all connected by magnet and then wiring to the top. So I can just change poster quite easily. Since this poster's gone up, a lot of people have been stopping and having a look and taking photos. And I noticed a lot more followers on Instagram. Actually, it's peak hour. It's just morning traffic, so it's a little bit loud. So I figured I'll just come back inside. So yeah, so we've got a little holder like this. And then just a little bit of extra weight on the bottom. And it's all, it's connected with magnets. It's all very, I'm quite proud of it. It's not an original idea, obviously, but it just means that we can change poster quite often. And I was thinking it's actually a really good creative space to do different graphic designs and things like that. Just to not so much like sales and promotion. I don't want it to be a bit of a daggy kind of poster. Just little things to talk about. Maybe we'll have some themes on, for example, one of the ideas I keep floating around is that during spring or like just before spring, we can do a big planter promotion. I'll let people know ahead of time so the members can maybe make some planters if they want to participate. And we'll collaborate with other, indoor plant suppliers or interior designers or things like that, and they can find the right plant for the right pot, and then we can sell it as a package, and then we can do just a very green kind of promotion, and stuff like that can happen every month or so. So having a kind of permanent poster that we can easily interchange is really helpful. And it's easy enough to take it out. When we're not using it, I can just disconnect the wire, and then maybe we can do a table setting or something. But the window space is going to be a constantly changing thing. So I'm really excited to get to play around and see what works, and it's going to depend on the kind of work that we're getting from our makers and from myself as well. And yeah, so I think the retail space is coming along, and once the cabinetry is done, I will be able to get a better sense of what it feels like to come into the space. Right now, you look straight onto the shelving, just because it's quite an attention-grabbing piece, and that's what I wanted. I wanted something that draws you in and also makes an impression. Yeah, so that's all this has been done this week, literally. So it's been a pretty productive week. We've got plumbing coming soon, so just because of some technical plumbing issue, we won't be able to have both sinks side by side. So I'm gonna have to remove that existing sink and just put the trough where it is, which was the original idea anyway. I thought it might be nice to keep both, but apparently you have to then open up the wall and then have a completely new connection that connects to the old one. You can't just piggyback off the existing one. Yeah, that's kind of the law and compliancy, but that's all right. Yeah, so it's Thursday today, so tomorrow we'll be picking up the potter's wheels as well. I think there should be 3, and the other 3 should come pretty much the next week or 2, I think will arrive. So I've got people helping me to carry them over. We'll install it, get it into the space, just so that I can get a better sense of how everything's going to lay out and see how accurate my 3D rendering was. And today I'll try and build my throwing table, so like the low bench that's going to sit in between the wheels. I can at least get some of that done today, or at least get the frame done today, so I can again put it in place and make sure that I'm leaving enough room between the workbench and the working space. And luckily, because the workbench is on wheels, everything's going to be quite easy to rearrange. So I'm really excited to kind of furnish the place and kind of really have it take shape. I know I keep saying it's coming along, it's getting there, but I think now it's like, when you move into a house and you start bringing in furniture, then you're kind of putting your own, I guess, ideas into it, even though there's so much going on. But yeah, so that's 2 more weeks, 3 more weeks. I don't know. People keep asking me and I keep telling them, but I don't think it means anything. It's ready when it's ready. But application should open once those wheels are in, because I can then start taking pictures of the space. I won't be able to take big wide shots because there's still things that are not done, but at least I can have a bit more context on the website in terms of what we're offering and what it might feel like to be in the space. And I would love to invite people to start coming in and having just a quick tour. Obviously it's a work in progress, but at least they can get a sense of what it's like here, the location, how does it suit them, and I really want to get people in soon. Yeah, I've spent long enough working on my own. I think it's time to really get that community started. But I've been getting a lot of interest from Instagram and people that I've already chatted to before. So I have a good feeling that we'll probably fill the space pretty quick, especially early on with the first 3 wheels. And plus mine 4, but I'm obviously taking one of them. So yeah, I think it'll be good. And then once it happens, it's just going to all happen at once. So we'll see. Yeah, very excited about it. So we've got the first proper pottery related equipment in the studio. There are 3 new wheels. As you can see, the one closest, that one to my original one, so it's you can kind of tell it's a bit older than the rest of it. But 3 shiny new wheels, and I've got 3 more coming. The suppliers are saying maybe in a couple of weeks. Fingers crossed. So it just depends on when the shipment gets here and when they can unload it and all that stuff. But we do have 4 wheels in here, so I can technically start thinking about getting people in. There's still a few more things, and the kiln got delayed. The sink will be done next Tuesday, so today's Friday. So maybe by end of next week, early week after, we can actually start having people in to do a bit of tour and also do a bit of trial, and they can, I think
my idea right now is to have a week just free access. Anyone's welcome to come just to check it out, throw a bit, and obviously you can trim and come back and do all that. And if the kilns are there, then I can also fire it and charge for firing, but the rest should be okay. So today, Jack is going to be working at 1280, probably part-time to start off with, and then hopefully we can kind of increase the hours to a full-time. But at this stage, because of budget and also because there's not as much to do yet, so right now I think part-time would be great. And he's got plenty of experience working with kilns, and he's got his own brand, so he's very knowledgeable, and I think it'll be like a really good addition to the team, on the team of one so far. So we got the wheels in together, and then I've been building these tables. So those two at the back are not done. You can see this one at the front. It's got a bottom shelf. So I just need to add the bottom shelf to the other two. We've been putting up all the kind of brackets on the wall. And here's an example of what the wear boards are going to be. So like I said last time, they're not the prettiest plywood. So you can see there's a bit of knots. It's not as nice as what I'm using at the front, but a full sheet of this, so it's like 2.4 by 1.2 meters, is $33. I get 8 board out of it, so they're about $4 or $5 each. And when you have 100 of them, which means basically 10, 15 sheets of plywood, that price really adds up. So the cheapest stuff is $33. There's some nicer ones I'm using for the Workbench, for example. They were like $60, $70. So it would have been twice the price to do this. And because these are consumable and they're gonna eventually warp, and we can slowly upgrade them, either go with a nicer plywood or even go for a proper hardwood board, if budget allows. But at this stage, they work perfectly fine. I've routed the edge so it's nice and soft to touch. And yeah, they're quite thin. They're 17 mils thick, so they still got quite a bit of structure. Like I can't really bend them like this. So they will be able to hold a decent amount of weight. Yeah, so it will take a little bit of practice getting used to just like carrying a board full of stuff around, but it's long enough that balancing is quite easy, and it's not too thin, so yeah. So I guess like the higher shelf will be a little bit trickier, but I think still perfectly manageable. I've tried using this one. I'm 180 and I struggle with that shelf, so most people probably would. But it's good that we can't go up that high, and I'll have a step ladder. So maybe for people who want to put stuff up there, things that they don't really use very often, they can use that shelf. And yeah, so there's 80 of them that I have to kind of sand and route. So it's a fair bit to do. So now it's all up to me. A lot of the supplies are here. All the plywood have arrived. Actually, let's go have a look at the plywood. So there were about 25 sheets, I think, in total. So 10 of them were for the boards, and then we've got a few for the workbenches top, and the rest of it. So this is the cheap stuff, and this is the nice stuff. So you can see it's a lot smoother. The texture is much nicer. So these are birch ply, and these are just general purpose ply. So the birch ply I'll be using for the cabinetry at the front, so all the retail space stuff, and all the cheaper stuff will be part of the cabinetry that you don't see, so like little supports and backings. It will also be used for the throwing table and stuff like that. Yeah, so we've got all the materials now, and I still have a lot of timber at the back there because I bought enough for 2 workbench plus a 3rd smaller workbench. So I definitely have way more than I need, and they're also for the throwing table. So I might instead use some of that timber for a point of sales kind of counter, just because I won't need a workbench here that quickly. This space is probably going to stay more as a working area and kind of a work in progress for at least I would say even 2-3 months after we launch the front. I think this is going to be an ongoing thing, but that's okay. I think the front is it's more presentable, and I think it's going to be slightly more important. Back here will be great once we get in more permanent makers, but yeah, I'm not too stressed about the progress of this because of what's going on the front and how much we've done so far. I'm pretty happy. Like it's 2.5 months now, so it's hopefully by the 3 months mark that can launch the front, and then maybe 4 or 5 months mark we can launch this at the back. But it was really exciting. So Jack spent half a day here and we were just chatting about what the space could be and kind of just bouncing ideas and, you know, kind of creative things we can do as a display and just features of the space and how we'll work with the people. So I'm really excited. And then I think today is kind of the first day where everything's kind of feeling quite real, mostly because we've got the wheels in and I can actually go and throw at the front now. I don't have the proper sink for cleaning up yet, which is fine, and I don't have a kiln for firing, but I can technically throw. I think that's like a little bit of a milestone. So I'll definitely do a live stream, and I think we can do a live stream of me just showing the area, doing another little tour, doing a bit of throwing, and also a bit of Q&A for people who might be curious about the space, whether you're someone who's in Melbourne who potentially is looking for a space like this, or if you're just someone overseas that, you know, just to see how this is called kind of happen and come along, and how, you know, maybe someone else can do something similar somewhere else. So who knows? I think that's probably enough for today. The next week is just going to be building of all these like tables and shelves and all that stuff. And hopefully the kiln will catch up and I can get all that going. Yeah, it feels a lot closer now, and yeah.